evening and welcome. As most of you know, I'm Craig Snyder, the president of the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. I want to note at the outset here that we have joining us tonight Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, newly appointed to the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House for the new Congress. And I believe, don't have this confirmed, please. I believe we also have with us newly elected Congresswoman Madeleine Dean. Is Congresswoman Dean here? Not here yet. Okay. Well, we are welcoming her in absentia. I want to thank you for joining us and for your public service. With that, it is my great pleasure to convene this signature event in the Council's Rising to the Occasion 70th Anniversary campaign, in which we have the good fortune to bestow the Council's International Statesman Award on His Excellency Petro Poroshenko, President of Ukraine. Many of you in attendance here this evening are longtime supporters of the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, and your support makes it possible for our organization to do here in the historic town of Philadelphia what we have been doing for these 70 years. And that is to be a corner store in the American, indeed the global, marketplace of ideas, and a facilitator of the discourse, civil discourse, demanded by democracy. I want to thank all of you who have supported us in this campaign and in years before. This organization was chartered in the spring of 1949, just months after the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and just weeks after the creation of NATO. This is not a coincidence. Just like those vastly consequential structures created at that time, this organization is a tangible monument to the thinking and the dreams of America's post-World War II leaders, people who believed that a main reason the world had just endured the horror of World War II was a lack of understanding of and engagement with world affairs by the American people. And they were convinced that a more informed and participatory American people could help undergird a world order which they believed stood the best chance of making sure there would not be a World War III. They succeeded. Americans did not return to the historic default position of isolationism, and there has, thank God, still not been a World War III. In these years, the years of the Council's existence, the years of the existence of the modern liberal world order, previously abiding foes like France and Germany became close allies with one another, and brutal enemies like the United States and Japan became indispensable friends, and ultimately, the evil empire of the Soviet Union dissolved. But nothing in human affairs is permanent. And we all know that the international order born after World War II, of which this organization is a symbol, is today under great stress. Some say it may be on its last legs. On the front lines of these seismic current events are the people of Ukraine. And this role at the leading edge of history has become a familiar, if not particularly comfortable, reality for Ukrainians several times during the last century. Ukraine was the victim of genocide, the Holodomor of the 1930s. Millions deliberately starved to death by the Soviet state in Moscow. A monstrous crime against humanity far too little noted in the world, both then and even now. But after the Soviet era ended, Ukraine chose democracy. And in what some see as a triumph of hope over experience, Ukraine chose not to remain a nuclear weapons state. In recent years, as we all know, Ukraine has stood as a nation under assault by conventional and unconventional means, fighting against the first acts of this sort of foreign aggression in Europe since World War II. Many thought that such acts would never happen again. But here we are, and most importantly, here is Ukraine, struggling not only for itself, but for the principle of self-determination of nations, a principle which has been at the cornerstone of American foreign policy since President Woodrow Wilson first began to elaborate a view of this country as a world power right here in Philadelphia at Independence Hall on July 4th, 1914. The World Affairs Council's International Statesman Award is our highest honor. It is not granted on a fixed schedule, but rather when we believe events, a moment in time, and the work of a particular individual meet in an intersection of courage and vision demanding notice by the world. These criteria are apparent in even a quick review of past recipients, including Mikhail Gorbachev, Anwar Sadat, Yitzhak Rabin, and Sebastian Pinera. And it is likewise apparent that our recipient tonight should be added to this list. President Poroshenko has led and is leading his country as it seeks to defend itself and to defend ideals America has long declared to be universal truths against subversion and outright invasion. He is fighting a fight in a direct line of descent from the fight of America's founders here in Philadelphia, the fight for national independence and popular sovereignty. In recognition of this valiant and vital work by President Poroshenko and the Ukrainian people, it is my high honor and personal privilege to present to President Poroshenko the International Statesman Award of the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. Mr. President.
Dear President Schneider, thank you for this introduction and an important nomination. I'm deeply moved and feel highly honored to receive the International Statesman Award, the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. I consider it as the acknowledgement of our joint efforts. I consider as a recognition of progress we made as a Ukrainian nation. And I consider it as a symbol of unity and solidarity with Ukraine by American people, by American Congress, by American administration, and esteemed Board of Directors, dear World Affairs Council members, dear ladies and gentlemen, високодостойна і дорога українська громада. Almost 3 years ago, in March 2016, I had an order to speak to the World Affairs Council in the premises of the US Capitol during my visit to the shining city upon the hill. Today, I am thrilled to address the Council in the historic setting of the Union League and the current home of Abraham Lincoln Foundation in a historic city that is famous all over the world as a cradle of United States liberty. February the 20th is the day of very special significance for my nation. 5 years ago, it made the history of our nation when the people won over a pro-Russian, anti-democratic regime. The moment of glory had a bitter taste of blood and tears of those who sacrificed for that victory was no less than ultimate, and all of us who mourned their lives lost. Earlier today, I attended the Heavenly 100 Heroes Memorial Service in St. Andrew Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the USA in South Bound Brook, New Jersey. It was deeply touching. And I appreciate that the United States Ukrainian community and our American friends share our grief and pain, as well as hopes and aspiration to accomplish the goal that their life were given for. Here, by the side of the Liberty Bell and the Independence Hall, I feel absolutely great excitement and inspiration and huge responsibility to fulfill that goal. Referring to the words of the US iconic figure, President Abraham Lincoln, our task is to ensure that those who gave their lives so that we might to live free, shall not have died in vain. Yet, the hand that manipulated the previous regime keeps on stretching its claws to our throat. Kremlin cannot stop striving to revitalize the second edition of the Soviet Union. And the methods of achieving the same are absolutely the same they used to be under the communist ruler. The methods used for Holodomor, for Red Terror, and other crimes vividly showing the horrifying scale of Kremlin disregard of the human lives and disrespect the civil rights and freedoms. Our death toll has reached now 13,000 people, men, women, children, something absolutely unbelievable 5 years ago. Cannot but remind you also about systemic violation and targeted against Crimean Tatar and Ukrainian patriot who are now on the occupied territory, as well as the dangerous militarization, Crimea, and Ukrainian war prisoner. Again, speaking with the words of the President Lincoln, I would dare to declare that both of our nation were conceived in liberty and had no other way than to defend it with the arms in our hand. The United States has forged in the war for independence and was tested with a civil war that once divided the nation. In globalized world, the ongoing Russian aggression against Ukraine is a challenge not only for us, but also for the whole democratic community. The community that looks at the United States as a beacon of democracy whose light is guiding freedom-loving people everywhere, as President Ronald Reagan emphasized. This morning, I spoke before the United Nations General Assembly in plenary session of the situation on the temporarily occupied territory of Ukraine. I appreciate that the firm and unwavering stance of the United States calling Russia to obey the international law. And I can assure you, dear ladies and gentlemen, that every Ukrainian citizen hugely appreciates that United States stand for our country shoulder to shoulder with us. And we Ukrainian people look at you with a hope that this endorsement will not vanish, and we spare no efforts to be truly reliable and strategic partner for the US and democracy's real stronghold on the eastern front line of the free world. We are fighting not only for our sovereignty, not only for Ukrainian soil, not only for our independence or territorial integrity. We are fighting for freedom. We are fighting for democracy. Democracy in Ukraine and in the whole world. And we're proud to enjoy the stable bipartisan support at the United States Congress, as well as from the United States administration, which is critically important for us. We are grateful for the assistance with not only with defeating the Russian aggression, but also with the reform implementation, challenge and task for the nation at war, as well as for the United States contribution to the development of the defense and security sector of Ukraine back in the Ukraine society. Here in Philadelphia, the father founder was created the United States. Despite of the fact that our country has a many hundreds year history, the real time for the father founder of the States is now. Exactly now, because now we're creating the democratic, free, and independent states. Now we go out from the Russian colony status. Now we return back our great nation to the family of the European people. And I would like to express once again my sincere gratitude to the both chambers of the United States Congress for passing bipartisan resolution commemorating victims of the 1932-1933 man-made famine in Ukraine, recognizing this tragedy as a genocide of Ukrainian people. This historic decision has become an important landmark in raising the worldwide awareness about the Holodomor and fending off the attempt of the Russian propaganda to whitewash the crimes of the Soviet totalitarian regime. We are lucky to feel this support at every level, at the federal level, on the state level, and on the local level. It is absolutely vital for us. Taking this opportunity, I'm pleased to thank Mayor and the City Council of Philadelphia also for recognizing Holodomor as genocide of Ukrainian people. And I would also like to give well-deserved credit for that to the local chapter of the United States Committee for Ukrainian Holodomor Genocide Awareness as well. So to all other Ukrainian community organizations based here in Philadelphia for your advocacy, dedicated work for the benefit of Ukraine. This is a historic day. Just yesterday, I signed up the changes of the Constitution, which I initiated half a year ago and was supported in the parliament by the constitutional majority. And yesterday, in the Ukrainian parliament, with the presence of the President of the European Council, leader of the European Union, I signed up the constitutional changes of Ukraine, which make it obligatory the future membership in NATO and future membership in European Union. This is the Rubicon we crossed. This is the guarantee for my great nation to returning back to Europe. And this is an absolutely historic event. And to conclude, let me thank you again for the International Statesman Award of the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. I believe it's absolutely true that peace and freedom is a twin goals. We shall never waste our chance to make our significant positive impact on world affairs and ensuring better future for the generation to come. It's our noble mission to achieve lasting peace through the support of freedom and democracy, as you do in the United States, as we do in Ukraine, and as we together do in the world. Thank you. God bless America. І слава Україні!
Mr. President, thank you for your remarks, and thank you for being willing to sit in conversation and to explore some of these issues more deeply. You spoke of a desire on the part of the Kremlin to have a second version of the Soviet Union. Do you believe that Mr. Putin's grand strategy involves the possibility of the kind of use of force that has come against Ukraine in the Baltics or in Eastern Europe? Is that something you think may be facing the world?
What does it mean if I believe? I definitely know that. If I was asked in the year 2013, if in general this is possible that Putin make an illegal annexation of the Crimea by the military force, if it is in general possible that dozens of thousands of Russian regular troops make an aggression against my country on the east of Ukraine, you see how the situation changed. Because in the year 2014, when it was the most difficult time for my nation, the whole world afraid to name it as an aggression. They said conflict in the east of Ukraine. They said civil war. They said Russia should use their function as a mediator. Mediator between whom? And day by day, we presented tons of evidence that this is a Russian regular troops aggression with the state-of-the-art weapons, with the radio electronic warfare system, with the missiles, and with the thousands and thousands Russian regular troops. In security conference in Munich, I bring a box of Russian passports, which was taken from the Russian soldiers, which were killed or imprisoned in Ukraine. And even this evidence don't help me to call aggressor as an aggressor. And you see how big distance we passed for the last 5 years. First of all, because of the support of the United States of America. First of all, because of support of the European Union. What Putin expected? What was his hope? First of all, Europe never will be united. Among 28 member states of the European Union, definitely it would be possible to find out 2 or 3 weak countries who can block the decision for the introducing the sanction, for not recognizing, for not implementing the Minsk agreement. And now we have 5 consecutive years when European Union united as never before. Ukraine is united as never before. And the year 2013, do you know what was the level of support of NATO inside Ukraine? 13%. 1-3. Do you know what now is level of support for NATO membership among Ukrainian people? 56%. This is the distance for 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Putin, for united my nation. We are as united as never before to go back to our European values, to our European families. We now have a second birthday of the nation because we will build up the new and modern army, not only well equipped, not only well trained, not only well armored, but with the highest level of motivation and the highest level of the patriotism. And this is recognized by our American partners as one of the strongest army on the continent, with a unique combat experience. And if in the year 2014, I invite any American instructor to learn from them the experience how to build the army, now we have a win-win cooperation because the whole American battalion come to us to learn how to beat Russia. We will be happily share this experience. And the third very important stage. Why I call that this is the time for the founder of the States. This is a great event for me to come to the city, maybe to learn the experience of the founder of the United States. because we build up the spiritual fundament for our nation. Can you imagine that this year we not only make changes in our constitution about NATO and EU integration, we also receive autocephaly for the Ukrainian independent from Russia Orthodox Church. Which Putin definitely don't believe that this is in generally possible. Frankly speaking, many Ukrainians don't believe in that. And only the decisiveness of His Holy Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew, who demonstrate not only in strong belief in God, not only love to Ukraine and love to Ukrainians. It should be brave person to make this decision, not afraid of Putin. But we, Ukrainians, give them an example, because we are not afraid of Putin anymore. Definitely not. We learn a unique experience how to build up our country and how to be. They say that it would be impossible to implement the reform during the war. During my presidency, I make it an evidence that this is exactly during the war. We should change the country. Make and implement very unpopular reform. Go back from the populistic Soviet-style paternalistic state and bring it to the effectively functioning mechanism of state. And do you know what is the miracle? Providing and implementing very unpopular reform, having paid a huge price Ukrainian people do for the lowering living standard, for the suffering from the 13,000 victims, which was done by Russian Federation in this war. The Ukrainian people is still supporting this course, which bring millions of people on the street exactly 5 years ago during the Revolution of Dignity. Craig, sorry for such a long answer, but I'm finishing. Is it possible that Putin attacked Baltic states? Look, few weeks ago, Putin attacked Ukrainian naval boats in neutral water of the Black Sea. It was impossible to explain anybody why he do that. It was absolutely a routine operation for Ukrainian boats go from Odessa to Mariupol, 2 Ukrainian ports. We have a full rights to do that based on the International Convention for the Freedom of Navigation and based on bilateral agreement between Ukraine and Russia. And he said that they think that that would be harmful for the Kerch Bridge. 2 small boats without any specific weapons. He make an unprovoked targeting gunfire against them, saying that that can be dangerous for the Kerch Bridge. Imagine that we let them build up Nord Stream 2, which is completely impossible for us to do that. But imagine, and in the year 2021, Putin make a decision to protect Nord Stream 2 in the Baltic states and make a decision to attack a Lithuanian, Latvian, or Estonian vessel. It would be absolutely the same explanation as we have now for the aggression against Ukraine on the neutral water of the Black Sea. And what we need to do, 2 things. First, be united. In NATO framework, be united in our bilateral unity between Ukraine and US to stop any politically motivated, provocative Russian project trying to put on hook Europe on the Russia gas hook. We Ukrainians go out from this hook, because every year before my presidency, Ukraine was blamed that we are stealing Russian gas. In October and in November, they closed gas supply. In year 2015, when Putin said to me that we stop supply to you the gas, first time in Ukrainian history, I said, okay, Mr. Putin, we will buy it in Europe. They said, but it would be more expensive for you. I said, no, this is price for my independence, including energy independence. And since year 2015, we don't buy one single cubic meter from Russia. Start to be completely energy independent from Russia. And even more, I instruct my government to go to the Stockholm arbitrage against Russia. And we win the case for $4.6 billion. This is what does it mean to be independent. My idea, if we keep Europe to be energy independent from Russia, Europe would be stronger. Ukraine as a part of Europe would be stronger. US would be stronger, and Russia would be weaker. Very simple answer.
Mr. President, a couple of questions in the nature of being the devil's advocate. You talk about it being a strategic purpose, strategic mission of your presidency, these constitutional changes to bring Ukraine into NATO and the EU. As you well know, the British are leaving the EU, and there is anti-EU sentiment in many countries, particularly in Western Europe. So what is it, in your view, that these Western Europeans are missing about the value of the EU? Why are you trying to get into an organization that others are trying to get out of?
First of all, you are absolutely right. Ukraine now is the most European optimist on the continent. That's true. Because we can an opportunity to compare. All Europe forget what does it mean to be out of Europe. This is first reason. Second reason, the active participation of the Russian Federation in the whole election process which happening in Europe. After Russia used or learned the mechanism how to participate and using democratic instrument to ruin democracy, I start to hate word referendum. Referendum in Italy, when destroy your optimistic government. Referendum in UK for Brexit. Referendum in Netherlands when they try to stop ratification association agreement with the European Union, Ukraine agreement. How it's happened? 300 persons who name themselves as Ukrainian make a campaign throughout all the Netherlands, make a propaganda, please don't ratify the association agreement with the between European Union and Ukraine because we Ukrainians hate them. After 2 months of the campaign, police check these 300 persons. All of them has a Russian passport. This is the way how to provide in the campaign. And the leader, Dutch politician who was promoting this campaign, and they said, how you do that? This is Russian, do you know that? No, I don't know. They said me that they are Ukrainian, and I was the leader. This is the way how they do that. I'm absolutely confident that if now, today, we will have a referendum about Brexit in UK, definitely pro-European forces will win. They use the emotion. What now is the Putin purpose? He publicly declared that he praying that Ukraine elect any other candidate, not Poroshenko. Thank you, Mr. Putin, because you do for me extremely good campaign in Ukraine. But, seriously speaking, Putin tried to interfere Ukrainian election, tried to undermine the political stability, tried to use the social media. 280,000 fake news accounts are only in the Facebook, Russian accounts, and work against me. This is in the situation that most of the people stop watching TV and receiving information only from the social media. Does it exist any effective mechanism against fake news which democratic country creates? Answer, no. We just count on the responsible choice of Ukrainian people. Is it good? Definitely not. Because we should have a mechanism, not touching the freedom of press, not touching the democratic instrument, not touching the freedom of media and freedom of meeting, but not follow the Russian trap. And my proposal, could you not close these accounts? Could you suspend for 40 days before the campaign and then please open it? Because after the campaign, after the date of the election, Russia simply will not it. Russia spent hundreds of millions of dollars for the instrument to influence on the democracy. And with this situation, definitely, we should be united. We should be united in cybersecurity because this is the new challenge. We should be united in protecting democracy against Russian instrument. And there is no any peculiarity in Ukraine or in US. This is the freedom, this is democracy we should protect because this is the values who was established by father founder of the states here in Philadelphia.
You've expressed gratitude to the United States for its support during the war, but you've served now during 2 American presidencies that are as far apart on the American political spectrum as there is a spectrum. Yet, despite all their differences, neither President Obama nor President Trump has done the kind of full-throated assistance to Ukraine that, for example, perhaps a President McCain would have. Many in the United States believe that both President Obama and President Trump, in their different ways, share a desire for the United States to have less central a role in ensuring international peace and stability, and security in particular, to be less of a guarantor of security. Do you believe the United States has done enough? Do you believe the United States could do more?
Look, I'm a president. And the United States says, do enough. But I think about the reason. When it was one of the greatest days of my life, 18th of September, year 2014, when I have a great honor to be on the joint session of the House and Senate and represented my great nation on Capitol Hill. I feel absolutely unique, unwavering support from every single member of Congress, member of Senate, which delivered the strong message of support to the Ukrainian nation. And at that moment, we don't receive any tiny piece of weapons from the United States. Maybe I make a mistake because I said in my Congress speech that until now we receive from the United States just Google and blanket. Mr. President, I don't know how to win the war with the blanket because my army was equipped with the weapons of the 20th century and we fight against the Russian army who was equipped with the weapons of the 21st century. And this was unfair. And we pay a very high price. But at that time, it still was embargo because of the Yanukovych Ukraine. And we need to prove that we clean army and secret services from the Russian agent. We are very highly motivated to defeat Russian aggression. And we are very much appreciate for the very strong message of support which was day by day receiving from the United States. I will try to be absolutely open. What was the difference between President Obama, current President of Donald Trump, and Senator McCain, who was a very great friend of mine? I was on his funeral service, and I remember last year of his life, we met a New Year Eve on the touchline, seeing in 300 meters in Shirokino the position of Russian artillery, who opened the shelling against us. He was shoulder to shoulder with me on the 31st of December. When we go to the Shirokino, I said, look, I have a report of my security services that they launch in artillery shelling. I should go to my Marine. Security service not allow you as a senator to join me. Answer of Senator McCain was, come on, Mr. President, we are together. Let's go. And he was together with me, meeting my Marine, protecting my nation. It may be the reason that neither President Obama nor President Trump just not visiting Ukraine. Because I'm absolutely confident, and Ukrainian community support me. Definitely, if American president visit Ukraine, he definitely fall in love with Ukraine. And he would be more decisive. But seriously speaking, I am very much appreciative to the US administration, because now we receive the lethal weapons, now receive javelins, now we have a negotiation to significantly widening the defense cooperation with the United States. I make a very special law. It would be no intermediate company. It would be direct Minister of Defense will buy directly from the Minister of Defense of the United States. And I just tell you what is the psychological effect of the javelin. Can you imagine, immediately when we receive 200 javelin, Russian tank driver refusing to go to the touchline. Since they don't know where is this javelin, they don't know if my soldiers equipped with them or not, they simply refusing. Since we receive a javelin, we don't have no one single tank shelling. And this is definitely saved life of my soldiers. This is the result of the effective security cooperation. Just with the one, not the most powerful weapons in the world, just anti-tank missile javelin. I'm absolutely confident that the supply of the javelin, this was a result of trust. Trust between President Poroshenko and President Trump. At that time, Secretary Mattis, Secretary Pompeo, the whole administration, and very strong support of the United States Congress. From deep of my heart, thank you very much indeed, because this is the very powerful background, the fundament of our cooperation. Without you, nothing happened. So please, very special thanks to the members of the House who supporting our cooperation. I was frank enough?
Yes. With the benefit of hindsight, there are some who argue that Ukraine made a mistake in giving up nuclear weapons after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The argument is that nuclear weapons states don't invade each other in the 70 years that the bomb has existed. Do you believe that the aggression against your country might have been prevented if you had your own nuclear weapons?
First of all, I want to remind you that we are a nation who suffered the most in the world for the biggest technocratical catastrophe, Chernobyl. And this is the nuclear disaster which take from Ukraine dozens or maybe more than 100,000 Ukrainians. We understand definitely how dangerous is nuclear weapons, better than anybody in the world, maybe Japan. And this is first point. Second point, it is impossible to say if we will have theoretically the nuclear weapons now, does it would be aggression or not? Most probably not. But we can have another risks during the time since 1994. If it was right decision that Ukraine give up the third biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, I think yes. Because I am a person of peace, I am a president of peace, and I hate nuclear weapons. And I think this is absolutely normal for the normal person. But at the same time, if I consider that Budapest Memorandum security guarantee we receive from the United States, from the United Kingdom, from France, from Russia, and from China, are working. And this is undermine the trust for the non-proliferation situation in the whole world at all. Nobody, after Ukrainian examples, will voluntarily give up nuclear weapons. Nobody. And for the sake of global security, the countries guarantor for the Budapest Memorandum definitely should act more active in the current situation. Because what me as a president of Ukraine ask now from the world, why I think that was extremely important for me today was be in the United Nations General Assembly and make a special report on the debate. Because I think that the only instrument which presenting the global security system created after World War II was peacekeepers based on the Security Council of United Nations decision. Because if I have the peacekeepers on the occupied territory, the Russian occupational troops simply cannot be there. And that means that immediately Ukraine will unite it. Because we have just an occupation, we don't have any civil war reason. And that's why we need to increase the pressure. We have the instrument for the new sanction in our hands. And we should push to Russia, no matter if he likes President Poroshenko or not. Putin should accept sanction. If not, should accept the decision for the peacekeepers. If not, we should think about the reform on the UN. It's impossible that country aggressor has a veto right in the Security Council. This has ruined the whole post-war security system. Otherwise, the NATO membership should be immediately granted as an instrument for providing security for Ukraine, including the situation with the Budapest Memorandum. We don't need American, British, or French soldiers. Our soldiers protecting our land. But we need the security cooperation. Just to demonstrate that Putin should absolutely sure that he will pay the highest price if he continue this adventure for attacking Ukraine or for changing the post-war international borders in Europe, including Ukrainian borders.
Mr. President, as you mentioned, you are in a re-election campaign, and there are, I believe, 30 candidates.
Yeah.
Some of your opponents argue that there is a need to reach an accommodation with the Kremlin, that it's not weak or treasonous but simply reflects the reality of living in the shadow of a bigger, more militarily powerful state. Some point to the example of our Monroe Doctrine in the United States, where we have for centuries declared the right to essentially control events in our hemisphere, and say that the Russians are trying to do the same thing in their, what they call near abroad. How do you respond, and do you believe that those opponents of yours reflect a significant opinion in your country, or, as you've argued, that they are being influenced by Soviet propaganda? Russian propaganda, I'm sorry.
There is no difference. Frankly speaking, we don't have 30 candidates, we have 44 candidates, which is make task a little bit simpler. But another thing, and that was my answer in the Munich Security Conference, we are not Russia. And today, 40 days before the election, nobody knows who will win, which is democracy. Despite of the fact that I'm absolutely confident in my victory. Three candidates has altogether more than 2/3 of votes. Three candidates has a 65 or 70% of the votes. So all other 41 have a big difference and do not consider, at least now, as a serious campaigner. I think that we still have quite a big danger, and we need to be active. One of the candidates has strong ties with Putin, which she rejects, but everybody knows about that. Another has strong ties with the oligarch, because me was the president who fight the oligarchs, and this is the most powerful oligarch who steal from the country about $10 billion. He lived in Europe, then it launched an investigation against him. Now he is in Israel. And significant number of his criminal activity, including money laundering, including fraud, he do in the United States. I think that United States should demonstrate their enough decisiveness for being shoulder to shoulder with Ukrainian authorities, because when we launched the campaign against oligarch, we were in one boat. And if we have a choice between oligarch Putin and Ukrainian people, I trust Ukrainian people. I count on their responsible choice. Despite of the fact that in the whole world now, there is a great danger of populism. As an evidence, you can see your not very far neighbor, Venezuela, and Mr. Maduro. And this is very self-explained example what's happening when nation votes irresponsibly. And with this situation, I'm absolutely sure that I do my best and we will have the free and fair election. We need an effective cooperation to minimize Russian influence on the election, including cybersecurity, including meddling. And this is not only to protect democracy in Ukraine. This is for protect democracy in Europe. Sorry for that, to protect democracy in the United States, because sophisticated state-of-art technology can be dangerous for any democracy. That's why this is not less danger, because I think that we have three enemies. First, we should fight to defeat Russian aggression. Second, we should fight against poverty. And third, we should fight against the elements of Russian hybrid war, including the Russian illegal participation in the election. Everything else we can solve by ourselves. Thank you.
Last question comes from a member of our audience who asks...
Please do not publish that I said that I win the election. This is completely confidential information.
We have a question from the audience on behalf of citizens of Ukraine living in the United States. The question is, please share your views on the voting laws and improvements that could be made.
I doubt that it is the right way to change the election rules 39 days before the election. This has nothing to do with the democracy. Because I think that at least for half of the year, everybody should learn the rules and should follow the rules. And especially when in the year 2014, when we have my presidential election, it was recognized by the whole world, excluding Russia, because Russia not recognize anything. By the way, we do not accept the Russian observers to observe our election, and I think I make absolutely right decision, because I cannot imagine that, I don't know, in some democratic country during the Second World War, they invite the German observers to provide the transparency of the election. But for the parliamentary election, I think this is the parliament who should have a responsibility to provide any rules of the election. And I make a public statement that I will sign as a president any new version of the election law. But I hate the idea that the president will influence on the parliament democracy, saying them how they should organize the election. This is not the presidential part of the job. This is my answer. Thank you.
Mr. President, I thank you very much for being willing to answer some questions here, and for your remarks, and of course for your presence with us tonight. Dinner is served.
And I want to thank you for the absolutely unique atmosphere of hospitality. I am first time in my life in Philadelphia. But I feel myself absolutely at home. And I wish you will feel the same when you visit Ukraine. Thank you, Philadelphia. Thank all of you for the hospitality. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Good job.
Thanks a lot.